The Golden Gateway of Primm became a ghost town. Caesars carries a debt of USD 12.3 billion. MGM cut 800 middle management positions in just a few months. What was once a symbol of the American dream, where the neon lights never went out, where people believed they could change their lives in a single night, is now silently collapsing. Primm, which used to welcome tens of thousands of visitors each week from California, now only sees a few hundred people passing through. Caesars, a symbol of luxury and power, has now been removed from the S&P 500 due to its debt burden. And MGM, once a leader in the entertainment and tourism industry, is having to lay off a large number of employees after a summer of plummeting revenue. Every brick of Las Vegas is falling. Every piece of its former glory is peeling away from the gilded paint of yesteryear. No one can save Las Vegas anymore. Not because they lack the power, but because the people who once lit it up, the workers, the tourists, an entire generation, no longer believe this place can bring the magic it once did. In today's video, we'll go through 3 stories: the ghost town of Primm, the fall of Caesars, and the wave of layoffs at MGM, to understand why Las Vegas, the city that never sleeps, finally had to wake up to the nightmare of reality. Perhaps you don't need to go all the way to Las Vegas to see the American dream crumble, because it began right at the first gateway into that city. If you've ever driven east from California, crossing the Mojave Desert, you'll see Primm appear at the Nevada state line. A cluster of flashing neon lights amidst a sea of sand, where Buffalo Bill's, Whiskey Pete's, and Primm Valley Resort once shone as Nevada's first greeting to those on their way to Vegas. Back then, Primm wasn't just a border town. It was a miniature version of Vegas. A place where one could get a taste of the atmosphere of casinos, neon lights, and the desire for a better life, before stepping into the real lavish party in Las Vegas. In the 1990s and 2000s, it used to welcome tens of thousands of visitors each week from California. They come for many reasons: cheaper rooms, cheaper food, cheaper gas. Primm's outlet mall was once a bustling shopping destination with Coach, Fendi, Neiman, Marcus, and more. The Desperado roller coaster, one of the tallest in the world at the time, became a symbol of excitement, fun, and freedom. Primm is Vegas for the common person, a small, cozy stop for those who want to touch the light of dreams without a thick wallet. It's where families stop for gas, have lunch, try their luck, and experience the vibrancy of the city that never sleeps, but in a simpler, more intimate, and more authentic way. However, when you step into Primm today, it feels like you're stepping through a portal back in time. Everything seems to still be there: the buildings, the elevators, the neon lights, the billboards, but the soul has departed. The rows of shops are closed. The casino is completely empty. Benches, wooden floors, bars, everything remains still, as if the town had been frozen in time. A place that once welcomed millions of visitors now only sees a few hundred people stopping by each day. The decline of Primm was a multi-year downturn, with the biggest breaking point occurring in 2020, when the pandemic forced the entire area to shut down. Although Primm reopened later, it never truly revived. Meanwhile, tribal casinos in California are thriving. Names like Morongo, Pachanga, and Yamava have become familiar choices for Los Angeles residents, just as luxurious as Vegas, but much closer. If in the past, tourists had to drive hundreds of kilometers to get to Primm, now it only takes them over an hour to gamble, have dinner, and return home. Primm lost its main source of customers, those who once considered it the first step on the Vegas journey. Then, when online shopping became popular, the second blow struck. The outlet mall, the town's second pride, is gradually losing customers. After 2010, the number of buyers decreased continuously. By 2018, over half of the stores had closed, and now only one thrift store remains open. When the outlet collapsed, the only other source of income beside the casino also disappeared. A visitor once shared, Even in the early 2000s, Primm was still a familiar destination for Southern California gamblers. One Saturday morning, my husband and I drove from Palm Springs, just 3 hours away, stopping at Primm to get gas, have lunch, and play a few slot machines. We stayed overnight at Whiskey Pete's, bought a few outfits at the outlet mall, and stayed for 2 nights. Looking back now, it was just a short trip, but it was enough to leave a lasting impression on us. It's sad to see the place now, so run down. Primm is writing the final chapter of his own glorious era with the regret of those who once passed through. This town is no longer the Golden Gateway welcoming tourists as it once was, but has become a forgotten stopover, not far enough to be a destination, nor convenient enough to keep travelers. The neon signs still glow, but it's a soulless light, reflecting off empty doorways and illuminating streets devoid of people. And so, while most of America only remembers Primm as a faint name on the edge of the map, there are still people here who haven't given up. Affinity Gaming, the owner of the casinos, is trying to rewrite the town's destiny with the Primm 2.0 project. They talked about renovating the Primm Valley Resort, opening new restaurants, upgrading the truck stop area, and erecting a new $4 million sign as a message that Primm is still here. Even the outlet mall, which seemed to have collapsed, still had a single brightly coloured store. Perhaps every revival begins with small things like that. From a second-hand shop in an empty parking lot, from a new sign in the sand and wind, from a group of people who still believe this town hasn't reached its end. But is that hope strong enough to pull Primm out of the dust of time? No one can be sure. Because in the present, Primm is only a shadow of its former self. A place that still retains the image of the Golden Gateway, but whose soul has been left somewhere in the dazzling decade that has passed. Is Primm just a prophecy of what awaits Las Vegas? If a small town on the edge of the desert can disappear so quietly, can the City of Lights, Las Vegas, avoid the same fate? Because what's happening in Primm, the Golden Gateway that once welcomed millions of visitors, is shockwaves, just the opening salvo of a crack that's slowly spreading toward the heart of Vegas. And that's where we're about to enter, where the glittering light begins to crack from within. Let's try to imagine Las Vegas as a living organism, a body that was once healthy, radiant, and full of energy, where every light, every performance, every cheer was a heartbeat of the city. But then, over time, that body began to show strange symptoms. The heartbeat slowed, breathing became shallower, and the light in the eyes faded. And as Vegas began to shake, even the institutions once considered most important, symbols like Caesar's palace, felt the simmering pain from within. Because if Vegas is the soul, then Caesar's used to be the heart. A heart that beats with the golden light against a marble backdrop, with the laughter of thousands of tourists, with the rhythm of chips clashing under the Roman arches. Caesar's was once where every great Vegas story began. Frank Sinatra sang here. Evel Knievel nearly met danger flying a motorcycle over the fountains here. And legendary gamblers used to fly in private jets just to lose a few $1 million. Then proudly recount it as a triumph. But now, if you walk through that hall, you'll feel that something has changed. Empty gaming tables, dealers standing idle without customers, silent bars under still bright lights. The Caesar's feeling of invincibility has vanished. And when an empire like that begins to show major cracks, it's no longer just the concern of one business, but a warning sign for the entire body known as Las Vegas. Numbers don't lie. In the second quarter of 2025, Caesars Las Vegas's revenue decreased by 3.7%, equivalent to tens of millions of dollars evaporating in just a few months. 27,000 room nights were sold, and by September 22, 2025, Caesars was officially removed from the S&P 500 index, something that had never happened in the history of this empire. For investors, it was like a death sentence. You are no longer among the elite. The stock has fallen over 50% in 2 years, while the $2.3 billion debt continues to weigh it down. To survive, Caesars was forced to sell off every piece of its soul, from the World Series of Poker to the Link Promenade, like a sick person gradually selling assets to buy more time. But the truth is, no matter how many times you cut, sell, or restructure, the disease is deeply ingrained in the blood. The problem isn't just about finances. It started with the illusion that Vegas is immortal. For decades, Caesars leaders believed that no matter how bad the economy got, people would still flock to Vegas to escape reality. And in the past, they were right. But the world has changed. Now, young people play casino games on their phones, while older guests, once the heart of Vegas, are tired of hidden resort fees, 5 drinks, 5 burgers, and a $50 surcharge for Wi-Fi. Vegas used to sell illusions. Now, it sells inconvenience wrapped in luxury. A middle-aged guest from Chicago recounted that he had been coming to Caesars for 15 years in a row with his wife. Every year to the same room, the same bar, and the same familiar smile from the front desk staff. But this year, everything is completely different. The room is smaller, the service is slower, the joy is halved, and the cost is doubled. It's as if they don't want us to come back anymore unless we spend $10,000. Caesars, which once made anyone feel like an emperor for a night, now makes people feel lost in their own memories. The loyal guests, those who helped build this legend, are now strangers in the empire they once loved. Caesars is quietly crumbling, like a heart that beats silently with each passing moment. No scandals, no controversy. There was only fatigue, exhaustion, and ever-widening gaps. Because Las Vegas, like Caesars, is built on a belief that the lights will never go out. But even the strongest light can fade when there's no one left to look up at it. And now, Caesars has become the first domino to fall, kicking off a chain of silent collapses spreading along the Strip. Because what suffocates a city isn't crisis, but the illusion that it will live forever. If even the heart of Vegas has weakened, then who will fall next? And can Las Vegas rise again? If Caesars was the first fall of the Vegas empire, then MGM was the next warning, as those who once operated the dream were now forced to face stark reality. After the severe tremors in the tourism industry, the entire Strip is reeling. And this time, MGM, the former giant considered the industrial heart of Las Vegas, was also not spared from the widening cracks. According to Cover.com, July 2025, MGM's net revenue in Las Vegas for the second quarter of 2025 decreased by approximately 4% compared to the same period in 2024. It seems like a small number, but for a corporation with nearly $1 billion in quarterly revenue, that's $80 million evaporated in just 3 months, enough to pay over 1,000 mid-level employees for an entire year. The occupancy rate at the MGM Grand fell by nearly 4 percentage points, equivalent to tens of thousands of vacant room nights, while the casino profit index, table game hold, also fell below expectations. Result: adjusted EBITDA decreased by 9%, meaning approximately $100 million in profit was burned away in the desert heat. Those numbers, for a giant company like MGM, weren't just market fluctuations. They were a pain that spread from the heart to the whole body. Because Vegas is heavily reliant on international visitors, especially from Canada and Asia. When these sources of demand weaken, even a sneeze in the tourism industry is enough to shake this massive system to its core. Visitors complain that Vegas is increasingly like a maze of hidden fees, from room rates to resort fees, from parking fees to Wi-Fi surcharges. The overlapping charges make customers feel like their patience is being tested rather than welcomed. And in a city that once lived by the belief of value for money, the feeling of being exploited is the poison that slowly destroyed that belief. The middle-class customer groups, who were once the backbone of properties like Luxor or Excalibur, began to quietly withdraw. They chose to stay home opt for cheaper destinations, or simply postpone their vacation. At the same time, the weakening Canadian dollar, coupled with cautious sentiment following border political tensions, led to a sharp decline in winter visitors from the north. Each group left a little, leaving thousands of empty rooms during the week, a time that was already weak even when the economy was favorable. Vegas used to thrive on that ebb and flow. But this year, the feeling of value for money, the true spirit of the Strip, doesn't seem to be returning. Despite the constant release of promotional campaigns like Welcome to Fabulous Las Vegas or Room Plus Dining Credit combos, the casino floor lights remain bright while the gaming tables become increasingly empty. The luxury suites were closed off, silent like abandoned houses in the desert. If Caesars is losing its luster due to debt, then MGM is losing its soul by sacrificing people for the sake of its balance sheet. Approximately 800 mid-level managers at MGM resorts in Las Vegas were laid off during the first week of September 2025, according to local news outlets. Those who were once the operational buffer, connecting the front lines and management, were required to recompete for their positions during the department consolidation process. They are people who understand every nook and cranny of the system, every beat of light and sound. And now they're gone, as silent as when Vegas turns off a light bulb. That worrisome feeling isn't just for management. It extends down to the entire frontline workforce, from bellmen and housekeeping to bartenders. If even the most stable class is affected, who else is safe? In the memories of long-time employees, the spectre of 2020 still lingers. At that time, MGM had cut over 18,000 global employees in just a few months of the pandemic. Now, the fear of fire, rehire, fire again returns, like the fateful cycle of a city overly dependent on the illusion of tourism. But behind every chart and EBITDA ratio, there are people. Each email cut is a family story. A mortgage coming due, children's tuition, plans for elderly parents' care. As the daily firefighters disappear, the service system also loses the resilience that makes the Vegas experience complete. It's easy to understand why locals start talking about the quality of the experience before mentioning room prices. And while large corporations seek to optimize, a small ray of light still shines. Bright Path Hospitality, a local organization, is launching vocational retraining programs for displaced workers, helping them transition to the clean energy and logistics industries. They're not saving all of Vegas, but at least they're saving the people who once helped Vegas shine. Finally, the question still hung in the hot, stifling air of the Nevada desert. If all the dream operators were awakened, who would continue to dream? If the 20th century was the era of Las Vegas, the city of lights and chance, then the 21st century opens up a completely different front. The battle between the desert and data. On one side are the brick, stone, and neon casinos, built on the aspiration and belief that people need to touch the dice to feel alive. On the other side are virtual casinos, existing in the digital world, operated by algorithms, artificial intelligence, and servers. And in that battle, Las Vegas, the world's capital of chance, is gradually losing the dominant position it held for nearly a century. In just 3 years, the iGaming and mobile betting industry in the US has grown by over 245%, according to data from the American Gaming Association, AGA, 2025. Nearly 70% of Americans under 40 say they have placed an online bet at least once in the past year, double the pre-pandemic figure. It's noteworthy that the majority of them have never set foot in Vegas. They don't need to go anywhere, because every game, from blackjack to roulette, from slot machines to poker, is right in their phone. They can place bets while sitting on the sofa, watching football, and chatting with friends. It's a kind of new Vegas. No flashing lights, no clinking chips. A cold, impersonal, but absolutely convenient Vegas. Meanwhile, physical casinos, especially in Nevada, are struggling with rising operating costs, declining customer numbers, and stricter tax structures than ever before. Big names like MGM, Caesars, and Wynn are all facing the same question. How do you make a young person in Texas, New York, or Toronto want to drive hundreds of miles just to play a game they can play right on their phone? Vegas is losing the convenience war. If the age of the desert is where humans go to experience risk, then the age of data is where humans manage risk through technology. And in that world, victory and defeat are no longer measured by emotion, but by algorithms. Now, the question is no longer whether Vegas can compete technologically, but whether Vegas still has a reason to exist when technology has replaced human emotion. Some small businesses are trying to create a bridge between the two worlds. Neon Realms, a startup project by young engineers at the University of Nevada, is combining a real casino with a virtual reality (VR) experience, where guests can place bets directly at a real table while interacting with remote players through VR glasses. A hybrid Vegas, between real and virtual, between sand and data. Nevertheless, no matter how many avenues technology opens up, what no algorithm can program is human experience. Vegas once brought millions back, not because they won, but because they felt alive. And now, as the battle between digital and desert intensifies, the neon lights on the strip still shine, but they conceal a question that makes the whole world ponder. If human emotion can be replaced by algorithms, what is the purpose of Vegas's existence? Las Vegas is still bright, but that light is no longer warm enough to comfort those who once believed this was where dreams began. Primm became a ghost town. Caesars lost its luster. MGM trembled amidst cuts. This wasn't the end of Vegas, but a reflection of America today. A nation that once believed in miracles, now floundering in the darkness of its own illusions. Perhaps Vegas will revive again, just like it has before. But this revival won't come from the bright lights, the casinos, or the magnificent towers, but from the small people who once operated that dream. Because if the soul of Vegas was ever ignited by real hands, only humans can reignite it again. If Vegas, the city born from human aspiration, is now being forgotten by humans themselves, who will rekindle the light of the American dream? And will we, when that light returns, still be brave enough to look ourselves in the eye? If you've ever seen Vegas in its glory days or felt its changes today, please share your thoughts in the comments section. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to continue exploring with us the hidden corners behind the bright lights of America, where dreams, though old, are not yet completely extinguished. The content in this video is compiled from public sources, including financial reports, statistical data, and articles from reputable news outlets such as LVCVA, Cover.com, Hoodie, and the American Gaming Association, 2025. Some of the statements, analyses, and situations in the video are intended as social commentary, observations, and reflections, and are not intended to affirm or condemn any specific organization, individual, or business. The purpose of the video is to explore, reflect on, and inspire humanistic insights into the ongoing changes in Las Vegas and the United States as a whole. Viewers are encouraged to independently consult and evaluate information from various sources to gain a more comprehensive perspective.